So, I finally played Shadow of the Erdtree and yeah, it was pretty good. Still waiting for Silksong though. Miyazaki served us a feast and I ate. Most of the time it felt like I was eating dirt, but hey, that's the FromSoft experience, right? And to honor this beautiful DLC, I took on a viewer's challenge run that I'm calling the No You run. It's basically a mix of a variety run and a challenge, like a 2-for-1 deal but with more suffering. This video also kinda doubles down as a tier list, ranking how fun each Remembrance boss was to fight, using their own weapon. Should be fun, right? So let me explain. First, we gotta beat every base game and DLC Remembrance boss using the weapon you get from turning in their Remembrance at the Roundtable holds. Second, New Game Plus, because, you know, we need the boss weapon from a previous save, so yeah, just seems fair, I guess. Third, level cap at 220, and of course no summons. This is a solo ride. Let's get into it, shall we? Starting off, we jump into character creation. Naturally, I chose the Wretch class for those sweet even stats. Gotta be switching between all sorts of weapon types, so balance is key. As my starting gift, I go with the Lens Between rune, and for character design, well, I maxed out every slider to see what horror I could create. Behold this monstrosity. I did that. Anyways, as usual, we die and get licked by a spectral horse, awakening some unexpected tendencies that I won't elaborate on. Since the rules say I can only kill Remembrance bosses with their own weapons, that means I can take on non-Remembrance bosses however I want. First on the chopping block, Rick, Soldier of God. Yeah, it's embarrassing that I got hit. Really setting the tone here. We hit Limgrave and start prepping for the run. Then I immediately forget that I'm a New Game Plus and decide to fight the Tree Sentinel. Spoiler alert, it goes terribly. Moving on, we grab the map and attempt to rizz up an e-girl, only for her to ghost me and leave behind a horse. I don't know why she made such a long face. On to Margit, I try to fight him and predictably die horribly. But hey, now I have access to the Roundtable hold, so progress. I try to take on some regular cave bosses and it's at this point I start questioning every life decision. Seriously now, were these cave bosses always this brutal? And don't get me started on the regular enemies. They're acting like I personally wronged them. After leveling up my HP for a bit, I finally managed to take down one of these random cave bosses. Huge dub for the run. Then I try farming for runes by killing an invader. Disaster. Clearly the solution is get chonky and get stronky. So I grabbed the bell bearing to beef up my butter knife a bit. Now, full disclosure, I didn't grind for runes to level up. Because let's be real, that's just boring for everyone. But I didn't give myself upgrade materials or equipment either. I just need the runes to level up and keep things fair, since we're New Game Plus. Next, we do the Elden Ring thing and pick up every healing material we can possibly get our hands on. Yet somehow, Margit still slaps me around. Funny how Margit gives me more trouble than Morgott ever does. His second phase with the spin to win Beyblade nonsense is too much for my monkey brain that can only understand one thing. Bonk. Me bonk. Why bonk no work? But I think I figured out what I was missing. The redness. The Heinz ketchup outfit. My signature look. So I changed my skin color to a nice shade of ketchup and absolutely nothing changes. Switching to a broadsword did the trick though. Since Margit isn't a Remembrance boss, I can use whatever I want to beat him. Once he is down, we enter Stormvale and grab the talisman that boosts jump attacks. Look at my booty. Moving on, we strategically sprint into Godring's boss room with zero preparation. Normally this would be a terrible idea, but this time, nailed it. Godric was a joke, honestly. The man didn't stand a chance. His great axe is a typical big chunky weapon, but its Ash of War? Pretty useless in boss fights. Still, fighting Godric is a good time no matter the weapon, big or small, so I'm placing him in A tier. Once and for all. Well deserved. Alright, with Godric down we've unlocked a few things. First up, we've got legal access to the Handmaiden and can buy every boss weapon now. Sweet. Now we've got a choice to make. Face Radahn or Renala next. And I mean, come on, I'm going with Radahn. That red hair, those massive great swords, that muscular, towering statue. Yeah, he's the one. But first we need to pay a visit to our boy EG for some epic weapon buffs. We can't just waltz into Radahn's arena without triggering the festival. And since we'll also need to finish Ranni's quest line to take on Astal later, why not kill two birds with one stone and trigger the festival through Ranni's quest? To do that, we've got to clear out Caria Manor and take down Loretta. But let me tell you, Loretta was way easier than I remembered. Not the first time a woman would rather die than give me a chance though. After that, we go flirt with Ranni the Snitch, and she sends us down to Siofra River. Now, I wasn't entirely sure if that deer thingy down there was a Remembrance boss, so I killed it just in case. Turns out it isn't. Then we meet up with Blight, who tells us Celavis might have more info. But before heading to Celavis, I wanted to clear the path to Radahn, and I see this fog wall. Wait a minute, there's a boss fight here? Yeah, I totally forgot about these two jerks. The Godskin duo Dollar cousins. These guys hit harder than my dad's belt. First off, it's a double fight, which immediately makes me want to summon something. But no can do. The first one, the big miscarriage looking guy, wasn't too bad. With Radahn's greatsword, I could stun lock him 9 out of 10 times. But that Crucible Knight? Man, he can lick my sword. This dude is pure agony. Most of the time, when I'm doing nothing, he also does nothing and just keeps his stupid shield up. But the second I even think about healing, he turns into Usain Bolt and dive bombs me into oblivion. And I don't remember New Game Plus bosses to have this much extra HP. Might be a huge skill issue on my part, but I swear there's no opening in the Crucible Knight's second phase when I'm dual wielding colossal swords. So I had to change tactics. Stun block the miscarriage dude and then switch to a faster weapon to take down the knight. My weapon of choice? Grenala's staff, buffed by E to the J to the I. And the greatest spell ever, Carrion Slicer. Found south of Argyle Lake. When you pick up a scroll, run all the way to give him the scroll and voila, he sells you the spell. It even comes with Carrion Greatsword in the same package. Now that's service. Switching weapons worked like a charm. First try with a new setup and down they went. Suck on that, Elden Ring, you're not that hard. Now, Radahn, you're next. But hold up, we've got some business with Celavis. As usual, Celavis surprises me with his overwhelming kindness. Such a considerate guy. He even asks us to deliver a drink to a poor girl. What a saint. Definitely not shady at all. Anyway, Celavis sends us to Selen, whose dialogue somehow triggers the festival, and now it's time to face Radahn. The handsome. If Radahn greets me, I bow. If Radahn holds my hand, I... Well, let's not get into that. So, I've never fought Radahn without summons before, and it shows. The whole festival setup makes it seem like summoning is the intended way to fight him, so I always just went along with it. Now I get to face the wall that is Radahn. At least it's a wall with a cool haircut. After what feels like an eternity, I finally get him to his second phase, where he goes full meteor mode. Sure, the guy's got the IQ of a potato, but man, he's got style. I spent 2 hours banging my head against him with no victory in sight. So I decided to upgrade my healing for a little more survivability. I've already grabbed most of the healing items available before Altus, but apparently that's still not enough. Since I'm getting nowhere fast, I decided to upgrade Radahn's greatswords. Thanks to EG's blessing, all my weapons are at +4. Shout out to EG, but I can't upgrade them further just yet. I do pick up a Somberstone 5 from Redmane Castle, but sadly that's as high as I can go for now. Out of curiosity and mild frustration, I decide to try Renala next, just to see how she's holding up. First though, we've got to take down the Red Wolf of Radagon. He's a good boy, but he doesn't last long when I'm swinging his favorite toy. Then it's on to Renala and yep, this is even worse than Radahn. Looks like I found the boss I will be fighting last in this game. But there's one thing left to try, tweaking my flask of Wondrous Physic. The 2 tiers that worked best for Radahn were the Stone Barb Crack tier, which increases stance breaking, and the Opaline Crystal tier, which reduces damage once. Fun fact, I forgot to actually equip the Opaline tier until after Radahn, so yeah, I didn't use it during the fight. Whoops. And the Stone Barb tier really made the difference. First try after the stance break and he went down. Jumping attacks with the Claw Talisman also did a solid chunk of damage, even in New Game Plus. As for Radahn's ranking, solid A tier. It's not just the power, it's the aura and aesthetics. I mean, come on, dual wielding 2 massive golden greatswords, that's peak Elden Ring. A tier for fun and pure style. Next up, we're tackling 2 birds with 1 stone. We head to Upper Siofra River to the next remembrance while also progressing Ranni's questline. In Nokron, we faced the Mimic tier and I accidentally cheesed the fight without even trying. Turns out, if you equip 2 big old bonk bonk weapons, the Mimic tier just goes full monkey mode and forgets how to fight. The Ancestor Spirit was straightforward, nothing too special. Took it on the first try. Its boss weapon is basically just a fancier version of Godric's axe, but since the Ancestor Spirit is pretty easy, it doesn't matter which weapon you use. C tier. Inside the city, we pick up the key item Ranni needs, and that's another quest step done. Next up, Leyendell. But before we head there, we need both parts of the Dectus Medallion to use the Grand Lift. I grabbed the Kaled half and then realized I already had the Limgrave half. With both pieces in hand, we take the big elevator ride up to the Altus Plateau. Once we're on Altus, we grab the Sword Talisman that boosts attacks at max HP, plus some stray golden seeds to boost our flask count. Then we take a long hike up to Mount Gelmir to pick up the Golden Vow buff spell. With all that prep out of the way, it's time for Leyendell. The Draconic Tree Sentinel, yeah, he was a joke. I barely need to mention it. I think Renala's staff is just too powerful, even at only +4. Inside Leyendell, I completely lose my sense of directions for 20 minutes and get yeeted off a cliff into the abyss. Now, I'm not ranking non-remembrance bosses in this run, but I'll make an exception for Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. Honestly, he's one of the most enjoyable bosses in the game. With a fast weapon like a straight sword, the fight feels like a dance, a beautiful back and forth of positioning and timing. Absolute S-tier fight. Right after Godfrey, we face my personal favorites, Morgoth. He's basically Margit on steroids, and I love how his great curved sword works perfectly with this moveset. The bleed effect is nice too. As for the ranking, top of S tier, easily. Let's see if any other boss can top it. Next on the agenda, Mountaintops of the Giants. But before heading into endgame territory, I want to tackle a more fiery and, cannibalistic remembrance. So back to Leonia we go, where we meet Scout Raya. She tasks us with retrieving her stolen necklace. The thief? Surprisingly chill. Dude even offers some freshly cooked prawns. Am I the only one sensing some tension here? Anyway, using our trusty secondary sword, we get the necklace back and Raya grants us access to Volcano Manor. We tell Tanith we want to join, but we immediately betray her trust so we can get to Rykard, Lord of. This guy doesn't seem to be quite fond of the ketchup race. Got the shortcut at least. Next up is the Godskin Noble, who gave me a little trouble but also literally is a goofball because he rolls. No? Oh, okay. Despite his impressive form, he eventually went down. Then it's time for Rykard himself. And let me tell you, his boss run gives me major Dark Souls 1 PTSD. At Rykard's fight, we grab the Serpent Hunter and proceed to wreck him, right? Well, not so fast. Rykard's actual remembrance weapon is the Blasphemous Blade, not the Serpent Hunter. And that's a bit of bad news for us. Why? Because Rykard enjoys a nice steamy lava bath, making melee attacks with the Blasphemous Blade feel like slapping a hot stove barehanded. The Blasphemous Blade does come with a unique Ash of War, which has some decent range and can hit Rykard from a distance. But check this out. Yep, not exactly promising. Out of sheer curiosity, I upgraded the blade to +9 to see if it got any better, and sure, the damage doubled, but still, no, it's impossible to beat him like this. I would run out of FP before I even got him halfway down. Oh, and don't forget, he's got a second phase with a fresh health bar. And guess what? He's more resistant and tanky. I even tried brute forcing it, tanking the lava damage while chipping away at him. And I did manage to get through the first phase, but in the second phase my damage fell off a cliff and there was literally nothing I can do. I know that the DLC provided us with a new charm, which gradually restores FP, effectively giving us infinite FP. But the regen rate is so slow that it would literally take ages to beat this fight. And I quite frankly do have a life, so yeah, I'm just saying it's impossible. At this point, I still see the Serpent Hunter as Rykard's true boss weapon. I mean, come on, it's the intended weapon for the fight, right? So, no rule breaking in my book, just a little creative bending. So I grabbed the Serpent Hunter and the fight became manageable. Rykard fell in a blaze of glory. If I had to rank the fight using the Blasphemous Blade, it would be an easy F tier. But with the Serpent Hunter, it's A tier for sure. Easily the best gimmick fight in any Souls game. After taking care of Rykard, we make our way to the mountains. On the way, I took a wrong turn and ran into these two random dudes who absolutely did not jumpscare me. I don't know how you replay games, but whenever I do, I always like to keep a YouTube video running in the background. And they are not supposed to show up on your recording, but it did this time. Yeah, so for the next few minutes, you'll see a ugly censored thingy down there. I'll jump out of the window later. We head straight to the first church of Marika, completely ignoring Borealis, because who's got time for that? Oh, and while we were there, we grabbed the Somberstone Bell Bearing 3. The Fire Giant himself, not that hard in terms of mechanics, but his sheer HP makes him a massive endurance challenge. My damage was decent enough in the first phase, especially when I combined the Axe Talisman, the Sword Talisman and Golden Vow. So basically attack boost plus heavy attack boost plus omni buff. Unfortunately, phase 2 is where my suffering began. His resistances shoot through the roof and my damage tanked harder than the Titanic sank. It took a while, but eventually he went down. Honestly, the Fire Giant isn't the worst boss in the game, but he's a strong contender for the most annoying. Instinctively, I'd drop him in F tier, but that would mean putting him on the same level as those bastards coming up, and that just wouldn't feel right. So D tier for the Giant. Also, the fact that we are using a whip didn't make a huge difference combat wise. First, Melina evaporates, then she's so fed up with me that she'd rather burn herself alive than stick around. Someone really needs to explain how we go from a tragic Victorian style death scene to waking up in a floating castle in the sky. Now we find ourselves in Farum Azula. On the way, I grabbed the Somber Bell-Bearing 4 right before encountering my favorite boss in the entire game, Godskin Duo. The Godskin Duo is without question the best designed boss in video game history. The mere thought of fighting two completely uncoordinated and bloated jerks fills me with endless joy. After all the precision and polish we saw in bosses like Morgoth, Miyazaki really outdid himself here. Godskin Duo, F tier all day long, no contest. I know they're not a remembrance, but they need to be an F tier. In every tier list there needs to be an F tier for Godskin Duo. Honestly, I wouldn't have survived without Margit's Blade, bleed stacking and a whole lot of praying. Once you take out one, the pressure's on to finish the other one before the respawn. But getting to that point is just brutal. Still, with the adrenaline from that victory, we sprint ahead to the next big challenge. Maliketh. Maliketh with his colossal chonk stick automatically earns himself B tier. There was some initial concern about fighting him with a slow colossal weapon, given how fast and aggressive he is, but a few attempts later I started to feel the rhythm. His first phase is full of openings if you're patient enough to learn his attacks. And in the second phase it's more of the same if you can handle that knock-off waterfowl dance. After 2 solid hours of attempts I finally triumphed, and I actually enjoyed the process. Maliketh earns himself a rightful place in S tier. Next up, Sir Gideon Ofnir. No remembrance here, so he gets more godded. Gideon is one of those bosses who either steamrolls you or gets steamrolled. In my case, Gideon didn't stand a chance. Then there's God Frey, aka Muscle Daddy. I mean, I don't need to explain, right? Before we face the final boss though, I wanted to wrap up the remembrances, and Ranni's quest was next on the list. Earlier we grabbed the Fingerslayer blade for her, unlocking Renna's rise and teleporting us to Ainzel River, where we discover Ranni as a tiny embarrassed doll. Her dialogue here is priceless.
Aren't we? Or is it merely thy habit to talk to dolls? Fine.
From there it's off to defeat the Baleful Shadow, which humbled me on the first attempt but fell soon after. Ranni then rewards us with a trial month to her OnlyFans. But the password to this account is hidden behind a chest, after you defeat Renala. Yeah, Renala. I purposely delayed fighting her so I could return with endgame gear. My damage is fine in phase 1, but phase 2 could have used more punch. Still, Renala isn't particularly difficult. She's my favorite magic focused boss, which earns her a spot in A tier. Password in hand, we grab the Darkmoon Ring, head back to the Lake of Rot, make our way through Millennia's Peak, oh my god, taking a weird looking elevator down to find Astel. After all that build up in Ranni's questline, we are rewarded with this thing. At least he wasn't too much of a hassle. I have to admit though, I like his boss weapon. It reminds me of my favorite hobby. Astel goes to C tier. Not a terrible fight, but a bit underwhelming. Finally, I was so excited to share my new toy with someone special. But the game had other plans. Oh come on, I was just getting started! Ah yes, Fortizax. Another one of those hidden questline bosses. Not too complicated to reach if you don't mind going through Siofra River. But wait, what's that? Valiant gargoyles lurking around to ruin your day? Seriously, whose bright idea was it to put 2 of these gargoyle assholes in one fight? I'm not wasting my time with them, not again. They can stay in their little hellhole for all I care. Now to Fia. We have to jump through some hoops with more fun bosses, aka Hellspawn. But eventually we get to have a chat with her. She tasks us with finding the Death Rune, which basically is a Firekeeper soul. We fetch it and prepare for the real fight. But before we even try taking on that overgrown lightning battery, we need to gear up. Unfortunately, the Gravel Seal, which would have been perfect, is locked behind Leyendel's dusty post-apocalypse. We are a slightly bit too late. So we settle for the second best, the Erdtree Seal. I also grabbed the Jellyfish Shield in Lernia for its Ash of War for a nice attack buff. When it comes to talismans, I'm eyeing Flock's canvas ring, but that requires us to go through Melisand's questline. I'm not dealing with that unless I have no other choice. Instead, we grab the Scorpion Charm for extra lightning damage, and respec with the help of Mommy Renala. But why the prep, you may ask? It's because of this small fact that we only get spells out of his soul. I hope now you're understanding my dilemma. We need to defeat a lightning dragon with lightning. So we go back to Fia once more. She finally takes the death rune and holds me tight. And believe me, tight is my second name. And as she drifts into her dream world, we are ready to take on 40 Sucks. One of our two spells, 40 Sucks' lightning spear, is completely useless for this fight. It barely even scratches the guy and is just way too slow. The only real option from his soul is Death Lightning, which seems promising. It's fairly quick and does solid damage, provided we stack every buff we can. The fight itself, oh boy, 40 Sucks took me to the cleaners. It took me forever to get used to his moves, especially with me moving slower than a rock. There were a few attempts where I made it pretty far, but most attempts were a sad story. Buffing myself for a minute only to get wiped in 30 seconds. Demoralizing, to say the least, but with enough stubbornness and probably some Stockholm syndrome. We finally take him down. The last hit, my heart was pounding like crazy. Sweet, sweet victory. I would actually put him in B tier. The fight was actually unique and fun, despite the limitations. Was it fun? Yes. Would I do it again? Hell no. Next there is another, less frustrating dragon. Hidden in Ferrum Azula lies Placidusax. Placidusax? I don't know. He was pretty easy and simple. I don't know what to say, he died first try, so yeah. B tier? Now we're almost done with the base game. There are just 3 more giants to fell, starting with the most infamous, Melania, Simp of Mikela. Wait, no, that's Smoke. Whatever. Time to collect the Helix Tree medallions. One stashed in the swamp and the other one is tucked behind Castle Sol. The boss fight at the end of Sol would be more fun if it weren't for these useless knights harassing me every step of the way. Once we grab the medallion and hoist it, we are greeted with a whole snowy field of cocaine. We liberate the village from its curse and totally without any casualties, and make our way to the legendary Helix Tree. This is where the real fun begins. Oh, Loretta, doing what she does best. Absolutely fucking nothing. Loretta's fight is just a warm-up for what's ahead, although I did lose a few times thanks to my irresistible urge to spam Waterfall Dance. Come on, you just have to use it. No? Moving on, the only real highlight from this area is grabbing the Dragon Crest talisman. Extra defense never hurts. Ah, Melania. Queen of Rot, degenerates on the internet, and unmatched blade prowess. She didn't seem too happy with me mimicking her, and trust me, I died more than once. And that true combo she pulls off when you shield, just unfair. But I've gotta hand it to her, the range on her sword is incredible. And that actually works in my favor. With the distance I can keep, it becomes easier to interrupt her. After a long dance, I managed to whittle her down and deliver the final blow. Melania earns a solid A tier. A tough but rewarding fight. Next up, Moke, the blood-soaked actual Simp of Mikela. This fight was actually brutal, arguably the hardest yet. Even after maxing out the Moke Wind Spear, the damage output was just disappointing. The spear is just so slow. It's like watching paint dry every time I swing it. After way too many deaths, I decided to change my strategy. I added Blood Boon, one of Moke's own spells, to my toolkit. It leaves that cool fire blood effect on the ground, just like Moke himself. We are basically twins at this point. This is also the first time in the entire game that I found a boss weapon's Ash of War actually useful. Moke's signature, Nihil! Nihil elevates blood buildup with that red aura, which became my saving grace. I am not gonna lie, this fight broke me, but eventually, with enough determination, I managed to make Moke eat his own spear. No pause intended. Still, because of the sheer frustration, Moke gets relegated to D tier. Now, all that's left is the grand finale. Even though Radagon doesn't technically drop a remembrance, I'm sticking with his hammer for the fight. For Elden Beast, I bring out the relic sword. Radagon, more like Radagon, am I right? And Elden Beast, more like an elaborate fireworks show. With a few well-timed hits, we emerge victorious easily. And just like that, we've beaten the base game. But we're only halfway done with what Elden Ring has to offer. There is still more. After all that, you'd think it's time to head back to Mogwim Palace and chat with Leda. Whatever. But nope, she doesn't show up. Guess I'm having a glitch where she doesn't show up. So I try to force warp myself to the Great Side plane, only to have my game crash and my save file get corrupted. Fan-fucking-tastic. Guess it's time to start all over again with a new character. But as the saying goes, new life, new skin, new luck. Inside the New Horizons with a freshly new made character, we do the Elden Ring thing again and run around to collect Skydew fragments. To prepare for the Beast Lion, we check out what the main dealer has for us. Yes, just a talisman and an Ash of War. No weapon, not even a spell. The DLC is going to be fun, isn't it? Fun fact, have you ever noticed that the jelly shield makes your character hair disappear? Weird. I decided to put the Ash of War on a dagger so that using the Ash of War would be more powerful than attacking normally. Okay, let's see with what we're dealing with. That's actually not that bad. These ice storms are working better than I expected. Just a little bit of aggressive play and not attacking in the lightning phase, and the Lion King is lying on the ground. Hakuna Matata. C tier. Next up is Relana, and I sure hope that we do get a spell. At least a spell. Yes, a normal weapon. A fun one too. These things are crazy fun to use and fit Relana's moveset perfectly. I slapped on the winged sword insignia and blue dancer charm, and suddenly I had a surprisingly powerful build. First phase was a piece of cake, and the second one the cherry on top. S tier. For the DLC I tried to fight every remembrance chronologically, just like they are ordered in the inventory. Next up is the Putrescent Knight, who's hidden away, very hidden. After a long hike through valleys, dark caverns, the Cerulean coast and into a giant stone crater, we hit a dead end, blocked by Mikola's seal. Turns out you need to go north towards Shadowkeep first. So we make our way back, right to the north, and would you look at that, somewhere a great rune has been broken. So we go deeper underground, past lasers, get launched into the abyss by a miscarriage, but finally reach the final site of grace and take the descent. The Putrescent Knight is a pretty easy fight. The Ash of War of the Putrescent Blade, which is quite fast and powerful, makes this fight extremely fun. I never thought I would put Putrescent Knight on A tier, but with the weapon and Ash of War, hell yeah. Next we continue where we left off in Shadowkeep. The Dark Souls 2 hitbox Sonic the Hedgehog lookalike here fell rather quickly and easily. Thankfully. We could continue here, but Shadowkeep has another more hidden entrance, where as the fans say, another beloved boss lies. So, go through Bloat Town, make a whole journey through Shadowkeep and reach the boss. The infamous Commander Gaius. Fun fact, it's actually my first time fighting Commander Gaius, like ever. So let's see how this goes. The heavy thrusting weapon though fits his moveset and makes the fight fun as hell, but I'm not getting far at all. My roll always seems too short. That's why I removed the jellyfish shield and trade for a light roll, which made this fight infinitely easier and more fun. I even first tried the second phase. Nice A tier. While being in Gaius' arena, why not pick up our sweet Scadutree Tree fragment reward? Feels good. The Scadutree Tree avatar is next on our hit list, which again is a boss I didn't fight yet. The boss weapon on the other hand looks so fucking cool. You're basically holding a giant plant bonk weapon. I mean, this alone puts it on S tier for me. The Sunflower lies past bootleg New London ruins, where nothing at all goes wrong. This time though we... Okay, third time is a charm. Okay, stay calm, it's not worth it. Finally getting past that section, we let the water drain, which reveals a new path, and after a lot of walking, we finally reach the Sunflower. I must admit this is a really unique fight, which vaguely reminds me of Zelda bosses, since you need to kill the boss 3 times for it to be dead. Lo and behold, we get the head of the Sunflower, only 5 more to go. Still S tier, the style is just too good. Maybe I need to make an entire playthrough with this thing. Now's the time to dig ourselves up again from the underground to the far top of the most beautiful area in the game, where we find Romina, who totally isn't based on Quelaag. I find her boss weapon, the halberd, to have a kind of ironic moveset. It's a halberd and thus has reach, but almost only uses slash attacks, which then again shortens the range. I mean, I don't have to understand everything. Anyways, despite doing humble damage and dying a lot, we still manage to persevere and get the earned mummy win, leaving only 4 remembrances left. As for ranking this fight, I think Romina is quite underrated and overlooked, top of B tier. Next is a man hidden behind Frenzy, and getting to him, let's just say I never have to train for any marathon ever again. So, find hidden castle passage, take coffin to God knows where, walk for 58 hours, reach a specific catacomb, run through the dark, defeat a badly designed boss, and then we reach the Abyssal Woods. We are halfway there. Here I found out how overpowered the Great Sword of Damnation's Ash of War is towards NPCs. It's a revelation. Now we again run for like 50 years, and we finally reach Midra's Manse. A beautiful manse, but we make our stay quick. Let's just say that the lord of this manse enjoys himself a bit too much. After running past everything, we reach Midra, lord of the most disgusting Elden Ring cutscene. Ew. Midra is basically phase 2 Nameless King with projectiles. He whooped my ass, but I whooped back. B tier. Seems like we are slowly reaching the end here. Next is a boss whose fingers can do wonders, and which I fight for the first time again. Meteor is another boss hidden behind a quest line, which is fine, I swear. We talk to Ymir, who tasks us with ringing 3 bells. Bell ringing goes, so bell ringing goes. But before we run into Meteor, we pick up the golden braid talisman for later. After flirting with Ymir's sexy friend, we can magically move his throne and enter Meteor's arena. Yep, this boss looks, let's say, unique. Wouldn't recommend accidentally dropping your pants though. But you know how they say, if they finger but you finger back, they won't linger. So that's exactly what I did. Meteor's finger stick is proving my point. Just keep fingering and not even Meteor's black hole stands a chance. B tier, only 2 more to go. Mesmer's next, who only knows Python. At the beginning I died like instantly, but after a few, and with a few I mean a lot, of deaths, I kinda got the rhythm down and he was not bad at all. Although I'm not a huge fan of Great Spears, specifically of the Moog. But if this is Mesmer's weapon, then so be it. I tolerate every spear, be they short or long. I guess because of only learning Python, he does not C# and falls apart quicker than safety measures in C. Mesmer's a great fight, even with my most disliked weapon type. He's still very fun, and though not S tier because of the weapon, I'd put him in A. Gosh, I hate Great Spears. Anyway, with Mesmer dead, we are ready for the grand finale. Science ketchup guy versus big booty Radahn. To do just that, we have to get to Radahn. So we use Mesmer's flame to unshadow Anir Ilim. We run to find the way. But just before reaching Radahn, we are halted by Leda? How could you? I trusted you, though I actually never spoke to you. Still, normally I would say, fuck this fight. And just teleport myself to Radahn because they're worse than Half-Light, which is not good. But we don't have to cheat. We can just spam Midra's special move, which as mentioned earlier is just broken. Maybe this fight can actually be fun, if you completely cheese it and don't engage with everything going on. Yay! Anyways, after completing a short-lived genocide, we are finally here. The finale. Consort Radahn and his fembro Miquella. A lot can be said about Radahn, how he moves with the wind perfectly and undetermined. But I won't talk too much about the perfectness of his muscles, though I wish I could. We equip the golden braid and choose any possible weapon. I chose the light version because the Ash of War is the fastest, but it has no use in Radahn's fight, so it doesn't really matter which weapon you use. Oh boy, Radahn. He fucked me up. He scarred me, physically and mentally. Radahn hits hard. I don't really. But the problem was rather his second phase. The first one is rather simple and relatively easy. They even nerfed this attack, which I approve. But holy fuck, literally, it took 4 hours. 4 whole hours. A tier. He broke me, but at last we win. Completing this challenge run once and for all. God damn it. Elden Ring challenge runs always take a very long time to complete, especially if you do all the remembrance bosses. The base game took 30 hours, and the DLC about 15 hours, adding to 45 hours for the entire run. And I thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to dislike and unsubscribe, and see you guys until next time. Bis später, Silie.